I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Today, we continue our series of conversations with leaders in the community who have joined together to work with Minnesota Department of Health and each other to address the challenge of the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to the Department of Health for underwriting this special series during the month of December, where Conversations with Al McFarlane uses this time every day, 7 days a week, to have a conversation about preventing COVID-19 and hopefully making people aware of what the remedies, the therapies, the vaccines will and can do for us as a community going forward. My guest today is Dr. Vincent, we call him Peter, Vincent Hayden. He's the Turning Point founder and president. Turning Point Inc. is a storied African-American agency that provides culturally specific substance use disorder treatment, housing, support services, and training for adults. And it's been doing this since 1976. The mission is to provide treatment and other key support services to help people achieve wellness and to live self-supportive lifestyles. In 2015, the University of Minnesota identified Turning Point's approach to culturally specific treatment care for African Americans as an industry best practice. And while achieving and maintaining sobriety remains a central goal, Turning Point also offers marriage and family counseling, legal assistance, job training, health insurance guidelines, and housing referrals. A lot going on. Well, Peter, should we call you Peter for this conversation? Dr. Hayden, what's your preference?
Well, I have a little small joke. If you're my friend, call me Peter. If you're writing a check, sign it Vincent.
I got it. That's a good one. I'm going to call you Peter, friend. That's the order of the day. And let me introduce you again to my co-host today, and that's Brenda Lau Gray. She's really a colleague of yours and mine, like me and you. She's a native of Kansas City, or might not be born there, but grew up there like I did. And in fact, I'm so excited to work with her because she and I met when we were 5-year-olds
Ah,
in class at the Booker T. Washington School on Prospect Avenue, which is almost your neighborhood as well.
well, historic Booker T. Washington.
Uh, so listen, thank you for what you do. Let me give people Turning Point 101, what you've created and what you've brought awareness around cultural specific treatment modalities is important and trend setting. It's creating new standards and awareness in all kinds of industries in the country. But let me ask you to talk about what that means and what pioneering work you've done in the area of health and chemical dependency treatment.
Yeah. We started, just real quick, Henry Sullivan, many of the people who know Henry, who opened up Lucille's Cafe, and I were in treatment together. And his question to me, how can we, because the treatment center we were in was in the suburbs and it was mainly European people, but they were doing well, like Hazleton. And so the question we asked each other was, how could we move this into our community? And that's where we started talking, and I started talking to Harry Davis, Richard Green, Earl Craig, Joey Hill, all those foundation folk in the community. And we started talking about how can we do that. And in that conversation, it took about 2 years, along with Ellis Bullock and other people, to buy a house. We bought a house. It was kind of burned down on 15th and Emerson. We just really wanted to see how did we have to always leave our community to be better. That's the
Mm-hmm.
bottom line. And so to sew that up is that you don't have to leave your community. Everything is in the community. All you have to do is have a vision.
And so you determined that you would, as Booker T. Washington would say, put your bucket down where you are, right?
That's right.
And build right here in your own community. And what has that led to in terms of the development, the creation of Turning Point as an organization, and talk about the Turning Point model as well?
Sure. Turning Point has about a staff of 50 people, men and women. We open up as a co-ed program, but like always, there's bureaucracy that feels that they know better. So what they did is they broke all the programs up. So there, if you go to a program in Hennepin County, and most places, they are either men or women. However, when they were doing that, we showed the outcomes of working with men and women. We were more successful working with black men and women than they were, they being European folk,
Mhm.
working with individual African American men and women. What happened there, though, is that what they could not get to the point of culture is most important. It doesn't matter men and women if the culture is there. And so, but the the rulers to be said, no, we're not going to follow that. We're going to look at, and so you don't have any African American men or women program. You have none. They're all European program. You have no children programs, and it's because of the best practices that we let out. And even though it's a national piece, still we're having problems with regards to having a cultural specific women's program, culturally specific children's program. So that's where we're at. Our goal is to and don't forget, it's the teaching of culture, not the color of culture, that we always work on very, very hard and have been successful. And so we have six programs, I mean, not, excuse me, we have about 12 programs in six different locations, meeting the needs of every man and woman that needs our help. So today we're talking about COVID-19.
Mhm. Mhm.
We are experts in that because we deal with it from a cultural point of view versus a color point of view.
So, talk about the plan. How do you use culture to address our people around COVID-19? What specific things are you doing? And first of all, I love what you say, defining the role of culture. What I've often said, Peter, is we as a newspaper, as a communications firm, we lead with culture as an asset, not a liability. Our experience is that white people would always operate from a chauvinistic, a imperial, a condescending point of view. They operate around us as if who they are and what they represent is the standard for humanity and existence.
Sure.
Like it's nothing but them and God, right? And that
Exactly.
and that those are indistinguishable. And so that when we approach them or they approach us with the idea that we should figure out that the first thing we should do is genuflect, to submit to their supremacy and to the idea of their genius, right? And we have done that in so many ways as victims of white supremacist thought and of white supremacist conquest throughout Africa, South America, North America, and through their ability to practice genocide
Yeah.
against populations in the world,
Yeah.
Native Americans, African people, etc. So uh, our resilience is such that we still are here
Yeah.
and we still rise, right? And what we're articulating right now, I believe, and what you are articulating is that our strength is in our culture.
Oh,
And
very much
our
so.
culture is not something that we have to abandon in order to be like white people. No, we have to simply be ourselves, and that our healing ultimately is in being ourselves. Build on that. What do you think?
Well, Al, I'm so happy you said it in the way that you said it because my first question is like Dr. White in his book. He wrote, "Why are you afraid of me loving myself?"
Whoa.
Wow.
You know, so if that's the starting point, I love myself. All I'm saying, I don't say nothing else, just that I love me. And you have an issue with that.
Yeah.
That's why we only have a turning point in the whole state of Minnesota.
Hmm.
One program like ours, that's as big as ours and things of this nature.
Hmm.
And what happened is that I started to genuflect, like you said, when I first started, we were culturing the whole thing, as you remember. And then I said, well, maybe I should get in there and compete with Eden programs and Park Avenue programs and things of this nature. And it came to uh, my daughter says a hard stop.
Hmm.
And when Liz Reed came on with me, she said, we need to go back and be proud of who we are. So if you look at all our literature, we talking about we're a proud own black owned agency. Everything that we can do because we want the knowledge to be out there to people that we love ourselves.
Hmm.
And if you come to Turning Point, all we ask is that you love yourself. And then we can get on the boat together. So what happened is I started to see that I needed people on my board that loved Turning Point. I need to have men and women on the board that love Turning Point, that understood the issues that all people understand the reality of that chemical health is mental health, that is physical health. All of those things combine together, and that's what we have put into Turning Point. Those three antidotes. So people understood that when you come to Turning Point, 50%, I'll tell you right now, you come into Turning Point, 50% of what you do at Turning Point, we will own that. Turning Point will. But the other 50%, you have to own it because we take away the excuses where you say, well, I went there and they didn't give me what I wanted. Did you give you what you wanted? See, we always continue to put it back on you. I
Hmm.
will take the 50% and I guarantee you that our Turning Point will do the 50%. But and if there's any percentage that was not done is because you chose not to do it. For example, I wrote down a few things, Al, if I could
Hmm.
get in the
Yeah.
COVID-19 piece.
Yeah.
Now, I started off with racism. It's the issue we have had as people of color forever. We've been, if you look at housing, if you look at the slum landlords, if you look at the how families are packed into housing, you look at the underlying health conditions such as diabetes, obesity, cancer. This has happened before COVID-19 came out.
Hmm.
So here comes COVID, right? So then you look at the crisis of mistrust because all of this is where people are concerned about the vaccine. Well, of course you should be concerned because we've been guinea pigs all our lives.
You're right.
We have been used in a manner that let me see if how it works over here. It's like Sears and Roebuck. As any most people don't even know, but Roebuck of the Sears was an African American.
Hmm.
But you when you went to the store, you saw Sears. They took the Roebuck off, so they get our good ideas,
Hmm.
although we're not capable of thinking, and they take our ideas and they turn it around. You know, and then lastly, the racial impact of and disparities that we're affecting the the COVID is affecting us. If you look at the majority, I mean the proportion of African Americans that are dying of this disease and things of this nature, it's because they're stuck and crammed in housing and all those kinds of things. So you can't just start with COVID. You have to start with our society
Right.
and how they treat us as a human being. And so Turning Point is about that because we cannot treat a person of chemical health or mental health unless we look at how we have been positioned for that to attack us before anybody or anything. You know, so it is COVID, but what will it be next week?
Right.
What has it been?
Right.
Those are the kind of things. And so with Turning Point, if we don't teach our men and women, because we have an outpatient program with women and all this, if we don't teach them, they will then get to a point where they'll blame the man, and that's what the man wants. He wants the blame because you take it away from looking at how you go to the next level.
So lost in victimhood, right? You get absolved or absorbed
Yeah,
in the problem, fixated on the problem, and you never see the solution. And what you really don't see is that you are the solution.
there you go.
That's the
There
name
you
of this
go.
game, right? So we have to teach our people to recognize that the problem solving that is genuine, authentic, and sustainable is the is within us as
That's right.
individuals who are seeking healing, and therefore as families, as community, and all of that within the context of culture. I believe I pulled up your website at Turning Point. Beautiful image. I think image means a lot, and how we see ourselves and portray ourselves and how we are portrayed means a lot. You and I know, Peter, that as often as not, the image of us historically in the white press has been negative, right? The reporting itself outlandishly negative and racist in history, and over the past 50 years, moderating somewhat, but always condescending, always operating with that spirit that I described earlier, that we're okay. But there's a Negro problem in America or a Black problem in America. And as they choose to define it, they really want it to stay that way. And
Yeah,
it keeps us always in a position of supplication,
yeah,
trying to meet the approval. And to meet the approval means you have to become white, though
that's
you
right.
never can become white.
That's
But
right.
you are on an unending quest, right, to deny yourself and to deny your identity in your effort to appease and therefore gain approval
Yeah,
from white people, meaning the white supremacist ideology. And I draw the distinction between white individuals and supremacist thought.
that's right.
It's not the person, it's the deed, as
That's right.
Mahmoud al-Qadi would say, right?
Yes.
And so I condemn the deed, and the deed is supremacist, it's racist, and I condemn that, but I operate, Dr. Hayden, with the idea that as we and if we discover the internal power of healing within ourselves, and we've been doing this all the time, but as we articulate that more, the power of that idea of the love we bring to humanity is a transformational power.
Yeah.
And that to the degree that we can be ourselves, nothing can stand against it,
And
not
that
even white
is,
supremacy. And
and
that's why they
that's
fear us.
and that's the point, Al. They know it and we don't.
Yep.
That's why we're attacked all the time because they know the superiority and the efforts that we make just out of thinking, not reading, but thinking
Mhm.
is it becomes a issue for those people. And so if you look at I have a book. I'm gonna step away for a minute, and
Yeah, go ahead.
I want you to see this book. Um, and I found this book in Duluth, Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and I had, if you know Nancy Berg, an attorney,
Yep.
she's European but wonderful lady.
Mm-hmm.
I had her to buy it because they were asking $50 for this book. When she approached the people, they sold it to her for $15. Now I want you to look at this book, buddy.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna pull the screen share down. You can hold the book up there. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm trying to where oh, here it is.
Yep.
What is that?
Yep. Hold it down a little bit. Down a little bit. There we go. Little Black Sambo. Yep. I remember.
I do too.
I remember.
I remember.
This
I don't know
book,
if I had one.
this book means so much to me because at the time, the little black boy wanted some pancakes, didn't have butter. He ran so fast that the tiger turned into butter. Now that's what people was reading in the 50s.
Yep.
Things of this nature. This book, I will never get rid of this book. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the foundation of so many people. But at that time, we were going to what kind of schools? So-called segregated schools. But who did we have? We had the most dynamic teachers you could find. And they made sure these type of books didn't get in our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, when what's the name came, and I know I'm not talking about COVID, but
Well,
it is COVID.
it is. It's all the
That's what I'm
same. It's
saying.
related. Yeah. Yeah.
That's right. There you go. It's
It's the pandemic, you know.
pandemic. That's
And
what I
this
was gonna
pandemic
say.
is the pandemic of 1619.
That's right. And
Yeah.
it's affecting the mind. So
Mhm.
what happened is that when Topeka versus the Board of Education came along, what happened? What did they do? They took all our fine teachers and put them where? Out in Southwest High School and all these other things. And who did they bring to us? Those people who didn't like us anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They broke the culture line, made sure it really was segregated. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know how far you go back, but I was telling somebody the other day that when I was in school, your grades was E, S, M, I, and F.
Yep.
E
Mine.
was what? Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
S was what? Superior.
Mm-hmm.
M was medium, I was inferior, and F you failed.
Right.
And our people did that to make sure, you know what I'm saying? Because now when you get A, B, C's, you don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to ever have anything. I didn't want to get an I ever
Right.
because it told me something. It said I was inferior. So I always wanted to be getting the E, S, and no
Less than M. Yeah.
less than an
Yep.
M.
Yep.
You see, that's how we have to work, and that's how we work at Turning Point.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get people to understand you are no less than an M,
Mm-hmm.
but you are superior.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're superior, why not just be excellent?
Be your real self.
There you go. That who you are.
That's who you really are. I think this is just a wonderful conversation, Peter Hayden, because I think this is really the essence of it. It's the attitude that will move us towards understanding the challenges of not only COVID-19, but the challenges of all of these other health disparities that we have experienced, and the related disparities in wealth, disparities in income, disparities in home ownership, disparities in education outcomes. There's a common theme, there's a thread with all of them. And the thread that matters, however, is what you have just described, and that is the reconditioning of our own minds to recognize that who we are really belongs in the category, the grade called E, excellent, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
to the degree that we can focus on no matter where we are, and no matter how rough it is at the moment, or how difficult things are at any given point in time, if we can keep our minds and our spirits focused on the genuine excellence that is at the core of our being, transformation does occur with you individually, but to the degree that the individual is transformed, anything and everything around that individual is transformed as well. And that's what we are as transformers. That's what I think.
That's right. And if you look at when people were, because I always say it was a revolution this summer. It was a revolution, and we got to keep it going. And it in the no many people don't talk about this, but in the Constitution it talks about if things aren't going the way it should be for the people, it is your right to bring it to the attention of people. And so if you look at Broadway, and we have a big window with nothing but the people you showed up on the screen not long ago. All the McDonald's and not McDonald's because Tim is in McDonald's, but all the rest of those shops were tore up, weren't they? Nobody touched Turning Point. Nobody touched Turning Point. And why? Because they know we are about the people. You see, I have great-grandparents, grandparents, and parents who send their children to Turning Point because they went through. There's a history. There's a foundation. And so when we talk about the COVID, and Angela Reed is running the program with regards to the COVID and things of this nature, they have no problem talking to Turning Point about it, because COVID is a disease of your mind too, as much as chemical health, mental health, and things of this nature. And so that's where we, I think, have such a great opportunity. And then the other part is the people who are listening to this show, Al, and you in particular, bring something that is called It Protects Turning Point. Now, if people want to get rid of Turning Point, they're going to have to work harder, because they can't come at me. Turning Point wasn't built. That's why it's not called Peter Hayden Point. It's Turning Point, a time and a place to change your mind. And because of that, it's ownership of the community. So it's like my turning point, but it comes from the community, not Peter Hayden's turning point, but my turning point, because we are there for the community. We had people when they were having the little revolution, Reverend McAfee and other pastors were taking 2 hours a time for those 10 days, whatever the case is, driving by Turning Point to make sure they didn't touch it.
And that just shows the degree of love and respect that the community has for the work that Turning Point is doing, and for what that work symbolizes in the healing and creating sustainability in our community over generations. In the face of all the challenges that we have. And so, Peter, I'm thinking that that we have to talk about what's at the other end of this pandemic. I think that the convergence of the 16-19 pandemic and the COVID-19 pandemic create a unique opportunity. It is being described as an inflection point. And the fact that we all witnessed 8 minutes and 34 seconds, 8:40 seconds with the George Floyd incident places our community kind of at ground zero in the world. The whole world witnessed. And what it witnessed was the debunking of the lie. The lie was that when things like this happen, it's just one bad actor and one incident, that accepting that everything is okay.
Yeah.
That incident and COVID-19, the statistics that we have, the ability to see the analytics on COVID-19 and other disparities create a new level of awareness and fuel our ability to demand accountability, not only for ourselves, but for the society at large. That's the change that's underway right now, I believe. What do you see us doing as we come through COVID-19? And are we going to be better able to create responses that bring our genius to bear in the problem-solving arena, and in a way that captures the revenue streams associated with problem solving? Because it is about money in part.
Yeah.
Money is the measure.
Yeah. No question. It's just a fair exchange of ideas through financial aspects, And I think we have a great opportunity. One of the things, let me start with, I always like, if someone comes to me and says, I got good news and bad news, I always try to take the bad news first, and then we can end up with the good news. And one of the things that I am concerned with, and I'm not pointing out names of people like that, but I don't think people like you and me are being used enough. We went through the revolution in the 60s. We understand that. We all got the college education because that's one of the things that we demanded and got. We all got great opportunities to work at the NSPs and the mini Gascos and things of this nature. So that's one of the things I wish that more of our younger people would talk to people, and they don't have to talk to me, but in your era, because we're fleeting. And so we could say, here are the things we requested, here's how we did it, and I know it works. So that's one of the things that I wish that we could get. I believe in education. Now, there's a piece going out now that just go to Dunwoody and get a mechanics internship or woodwork and things of this nature. But those people who go to Dunwoody still come to the people from the university to get their orders. So you need to understand that nothing beats education, formal education, but don't get institutionalized. And I think sometimes that's what happened. I think somewhere we've got to bring in these churches again. I'm talking about the Lutheran churches and all this, because at this particular time, and the foundations too, because they are choosing who they want to work with, and the people they choose them because they can get along with them. So those are some of the things that just come to the aspect. And then lastly, with regards to us, the people who look like us, because the way we got from Ghana to the United States of America was that people who look like us could run fast enough to corral us. And I think we need to have a good conversation around that, not a fighting conversation, but just what are the skills that we each bring to the table? For example, today I would not be on radio if Al McFarlane didn't call me and say, I want you to come on and here's what I want you to talk about. Knowing that I had the skills to prepare to give information to all those thousands of people that are now listening to this show. So when they go, they can take it away versus what other people do and listen to Russ Limbaugh. And so they say, I don't have to think, I'll just listen to Russ, And so that is what I'm talking about. And I also think that last part is there are people that my children went to school with who parents want to do something, but they don't know what.
Right.
And so we've got to be skilled enough to articulate to them a way that, in their own way, with help from us or whoever, can get them to the next level. There's a article coming out on the 27th. The Star Tribune called me up, and I I have to follow HIPAA.
Hmm.
So they wanted to know about George Floyd and some other things that they had heard from other people. And I said, I cannot deny or own up to it, but what I can do is tell you what we do at Turning Point.
Hmm.
And I think that's the bottom line. I'm not out there, Al, and I don't think people should be out there to be the leader. Let us all lead together.
Hmm.
And so those are the things that I know. I know I came out of the way. Spike came out. I mean, Spike, well, we both came out of all of us came out of the way. But I also started the program where the OIC is now called The Whole.
Hmm.
And that was American Lutheran Church. And so, because everybody wasn't crossing Ocean Highway to give what Seal and Gwen was giving, but they would go to the projects that was right there on Ocean Highway.
Hmm.
And so we have to learn, and Spike and I do this now. Someone might have an issue with Spike, and they'll come to me and say, "What do you think?" And I'll agree with Spike. We got to have unity.
Hmm. Hmm. That's right on the money. That's the name of the game. You were also in an article, I think it was either in New Yorker Magazine or New York Times recently around, which one was it?
The Washington Post.
Washington Post, yeah. So they came to you, to Turning Point, to talk about, the George Floyd incident. Tell me about that, and just how that came up and what you were able to say and share.
Yeah, I there's a rule called HIPAA, and in the medical field, uh, you cannot say if a person has been in your program or not.
Hmm.
But there are people who have been in the program who had made mention that George may have been, and not had, may have been, that was in Turning Point and had done a great job. Now, so when they came to me, they understood that I couldn't talk about George Floyd, but I could talk about the things that we do. And I would like to start it off by saying, Al, isn't it interesting that people would hear about Turning Point in Washington, D.C., but yet and still we continue to have issues from the bureaucracy in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Hmm. Hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
Hmm.
You know, and that we do such good work that you can hear about us in Washington, D.C., New York, and around the country, but yet and still. And that's the piece that you were talking about, uh, with regards to uh, somebody else. What is it? Ice is colder. Remember that
Yep,
saying?
yep, yep. White man's
Uh,
ice is colder,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What I always say is, we get the misery, they get the money.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
There you go. So the thing is many people, but there is enough. The saving grace is many people around the country that have heard of Turning Point, that has moved to Minnesota, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and got here, had some issues, mental health, chemical health issues, and came to Turning Point. Many people have. And what we're doing is that we are allowing people to be themselves from a culture, because when you look at our hue, me and your hue, you understand, our culture is the same.
Hmm.
Yeah, we might have a New York brogue, or we might speak a little different because we're from Atlanta, but the culture is the same. And that's what we're working on. We don't care where you come from, long as you understand that Turning Point is a time and place to change your mind. That's the whole thing. That's what it is. I mean, you see, there's too many people, Al, and thank you putting that back up there. I mean, putting it up there. But here's the culture. Now, if you're European and your mom is Canadian or from Ireland, you say they have no problem saying, "Oh yeah, I'm a part Irish, part this, that, and the other." Black people don't say that. Black people say I'm black. We don't be up here trying. I mean, and I know you're not from this country, Al.
Hmm. Hmm.
You understand? And I want to know your background because that's a part of my background, or what, like the conversation we were having with Brenda. You know, we both all three from Kansas City. We
Hmm.
know this, that, and the other. But if it comes down to the real nitty gritty, we're all black, all African Americans. You know what I'm saying? See, and that is what I think that we have to get into because otherwise we separate ourselves.
Hmm.
We separate ourselves. And that's what I think we've got to get the group, our other group of people to understand that you are about the same that we are because we all have mental health issues, chemical health issues, we
Absolutely.
all have housing issues, all these kinds of things. And then that last part that I want to say to you about the COVID is
Hmm.
that it should be a law against packing people in homes and houses because that's where it's spreading now.
Yep.
It's wintertime, you can't get outside,
Yep.
and you've got so many slum landlords. It just makes sense, and not to find them,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
get rid of that mess. That's the problem. So with regards to the
I,
George Floyd piece,
mhm.
um, um, I never saw him, but uh, there were people who were in the program with him
Hmm.
and said that he benefited. His some parents, some people have called us and
Hmm.
talked to us, and the one thing is that chemical dependency is like COVID. It doesn't segregate. It gets whoever opens the door. That's what the devil does.
Hmm.
You never hear somebody going to the devil.
Hmm.
You understand? He
Yeah.
knocks on the door all the time. And if you
Hmm.
open that door,
There it
he's going to
is.
come in.
Hmm.
And that's the way the drug is.
Hmm.
And so we have to understand you don't have to open all the doors.
That's a good analogy, Peter. So let me ask you, coming up, uh, I'm wondering if your organization is poised to keep moving the dialogue forward about vaccinations. It seems to me that you and I both have described the well-founded hesitation and
Yep.
mistrust,
Yep.
but at the same time, we know we have to get past
Yep. Yep.
hesitation and mistrust, and we have to embrace the science, but we have to really be able to explain the science to our satisfaction, right? And
Yep.
know that our people are involved in creating that science and elevate awareness so that we take ownership of the solutions that are unfolding right now. So are you going to be in a position as an organization to work on educating, encouraging our people to make good decisions about vaccination? And let me say, I'm telling people wherever I can that having done the interviews that I do and the research I'm doing, I personally am prepared to step up at the earliest possible date to receive a COVID-19 vaccination. And I'll do that publicly because I want to encourage other people to do the same. But what are your thoughts as an organization? Are you going to be able to be part of educating our people on that?
We're already starting to educate them. And I'm glad you brought that up because Liz and I want to, um, your show or whatever show that has a camera, when we get the shot, because it's going to be coming up pretty quick.
Mhm.
not only because of my age, but because we're a vital institution like nursing homes, etc.
Mhm.
And so we're trying to, the same thing we do, and I've been talking to you about with regards to how we treat chemical health, mental health, and those kind of
Mhm.
things. That's what we're doing with our young men and young women, and trying to say, yeah, there's historical things, and you should not leave that, but times have changed. And
Mhm.
I'm going to be the first, Liz and I are going to be the first to get our shot
Yep.
because you said it's about researching and things of this nature. And that's what we're doing with our men and women and our community for them to understand it's not all, you're not always collateral damage.
Right.
And
Right.
at this particular time, we're giving them information of the housing and things of this nature, also looking at their families and those kind of things. But yeah, we are definitely going to get the shot, hopefully, because we can't tell someone to get the shot because then they'll come back.
Did you do it? Did you do it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
but we're going to encourage
Yeah.
all that we can, whether it's the radio show I'm talking about now and things of this nature, because this is no joke. It needs to be done. And so, yeah, I'm with you. I'm following right behind you. When they hit you, I'm going to be the next person they go hit.
Well, we're going to figure out a way that maybe several of us can, by Zoom, maybe be involved in a vaccination event that
Yeah,
covers several organizations and individuals
yeah,
like us that are willing to stand up and say, look, let's do this.
yes.
It's an idea. Okay, let's talk about that. Brenda, any
Well,
thoughts or questions, comments? Brenda Lyle Gray?
No, I've enjoyed every bit of it.
thank you, Brenda.
And I look forward to reading more about Turning Point.
Please do go
I
online.
will.
There's a
I'm gonna
lot.
look at your website.
Okay, and you can go on to YouTube too.
Okay, I
Okay,
will.
there's plenty of things. But I was going to say, Brenda, that I don't know if you were, but Al and I were in the service. And if you remember, Al, when we first went to orientation, they hit us with so many shots, it was
Yep.
unbelievable. And
Yep.
nobody questioned that or
Right.
say, I'm not going to take that shot.
Right. You used to roll the
You know
sleeves
what?
up,
Let me
get the shot.
say this when you talk about the service. Let me say this real quick. My oldest daughter mentioned something to me the other day. She said, Mother, understand that the Tuskegee study was just not the people that did the study. They couldn't let these boys be drafted in the service because they would find out that they had syphilis.
Mhm.
Ah,
So it was a lot of people that were involved in that cover up.
yes.
And I really didn't think about that when it came to the Army
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
because those physicals were strenuous.
Very much so. Very much so. You know. So, and I think the other thing too, Brenda and Al, is that we have to protect each other.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, what was going on, and you might know better than I, Al, but what was going on to allow all those people to get tested that way? You
Mhm.
know, I mean, you and I right now, the three of us are talking about, are we going to get the shot? And we're breaking it down, we're
Yep.
chopping it up,
Yep.
you know. And I'm not just going to follow just because Al says, I think
Mhm.
the shot would be good for you, Peter. I'm no,
Do the
no.
work. Do the
You
research.
got to do the work.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. And my decision comes from over 100 interviews I've done. Right. So I'm talking to a lot of people. So I'm doing serious and intensive and extensive research
Right.
as a journalist. That's what I'm doing. In addition, the reading I do to prepare for the interview. So absolutely, it's about doing the work. My particular work is also to share what I learn in
Yeah.
forums and formats and platforms like this. But, it reminds me also, uh, Peter, where were you when you got your first polio shots? You
I was
remember
in
getting
Kansas.
polio?
I
What
was in
school?
Kansas City.
How old were you? What grade were you in?
I was in I was at Lincoln Junior, so I was like 14 years old.
Okay, and I think you're about 5 years older than me. I think.
Yeah,
I'm 73. How old are you?
I don't know, man. You have been throwing the age out.
Well, okay.
I'm
You a few grades.
77. I'm 77, man.
I think you about 4 grades over me,
And
maybe.
you look pretty good there. That red
Thank you.
shows it.
Thank you so much.
And so the point I bring it up because of this, and I told this to Brenda the other day. I remember at D.A. Holmes, we
Yep.
might have been third grade or second grade. It must have been third grade. Because you would have been in junior high at that time. When
Yeah.
you must have been seventh grade when I was in third grade, something like that.
Right.
And so it would make sense that that's where you were inoculated or vaccinated for polio, and they brought out all of the grade schoolers, class by class, had long lines on the playground or outside the school, table set up, nurses with
I think
needles.
it was in
And
the gym, Al. I think
Well,
they brought all of us down to the gymnasium.
I remember it being outdoors.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I remember, but it might have been more than one time though.
Hmm.
I certainly remember an outdoor time, and because we were on the Benton Avenue side of the building of D.A. Holmes.
I
Yeah.
just remember them putting it under our tongue.
Well, I got shots.
Yeah. See,
You-
that was the
Well,
sugar
maybe the
pill that
booster
you
went
got.
under our tongue.
Okay. Well, that's probably a different thing. But I remember getting the actual needle shot and then set up with the needles. Because I was saying, I don't know if they were changing needles at that time.
That's
Back in
right.
those, they might have just been using
Oh, my
alcohol
goodness.
between needles, and it
Yeah.
might have been 300 or 400 of us, sharing a needle,
Yeah.
which wouldn't happen today, fortunately, because we didn't know,
Yeah.
But I remember that. But the point I'm making is that to the degree that I have a good experience with public health policy
Yeah.
and the ability to not have been impacted by, measles, rubella, MMR, those shots we got for prevention, to the shots we had for polio, because I knew the stories about how polio was ravishing the society and families, and we were all appreciative of getting the polio vaccination, and we learned about Dr. Salk, right?
Yeah.
The Salk vaccine. So there was an effort to educate us so that we understood the how, the why, and we embraced the solution at that time. So I think the same thing is afoot here. We need to educate so that our people can embrace the solution and move forward. And we have experience to testify about that says why this is the right thing to do. That's what I think. Well, listen, this has been a great conversation. Dr. Vincent Peter Hayden, founder, CEO, president of Turning Point. My friend, Brenda Lyle Gray. This has just been a great conversation. It always is. And thanks also to Kelvin Curia, who's engineering the program. We're going to continue doing this every day. We're scheduled through the 31st right now. Our hope is that we can continue this COVID-focused conversation into the new year as well. We think that it's important that our voices are heard or lifted up, and that we project and present ourselves as solution makers, as part of the solution side of the equation, not simply the problem. We are the solution.
That's right.
And as the solution, we simply need to enable, empower, fund this solution capability so that we can have the impact that healing can deliver to our people and our community.
Dr. Hayden, congratulations on all of your great work. And I want to read more about it. This was really good and very informative. And what a spirit. Happy holidays. I'm going to say Merry Christmas. We grew up saying Merry
That's right.
Yeah. I know I was gonna I'm at the age where I didn't care, but then someone told me that legally it'd be better to use Happy Holiday
Yeah.
than Merry Christmas. So I said, okay.
Mhm, mhm.
But I'm going to agree with you. I'm from the old school that Merry Christmas makes so much sense for me. But I appreciate you, Al, all the time. And Mary, now that we're going to become good friends, for just not forgetting that I may not be able to run as fast as I did, but I can, it's like the rapid and the tortoise.
Mhm.
I can walk you down,
That's right. That's right.
and I've got some in my. I'm in, the old folks say I'm in my right mind. So
That's
thank you
right.
so much.
That's right. Well, I want to also always never to forget to thank you for your service to our country. I have a special place in my heart for men and women who were part of the military, for the service we gave, the risk we took, and the unrecognized valor that we displayed consistently and broadly. And so, and I know some of us sometimes were not happy being in the service,
Right.
but we did it. Right? We did it. We did our duty. We did the work. And so no matter what it is, I think we deserve recognition. And Dr. Hayden, recognize you and thank you for your work and your service to our country.
Thank you
Listen,
so much.
good program as always. We call these robust conversations. We're going to continue this every day at this time. Join us. Like it if you're watching on YouTube. If you're checking it out on Facebook, share it. Start a watch party. Send it to your contacts, to your platforms, and let's bring awareness to each other. Let's celebrate our capacity to become our true selves. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.